Hey there, Tarot family. April here on Tarot and Witchery. I'm finally doing this tag and I feel a little bit bad. This is Desert Island decks. Okay, so I feel bad because I actually pestered Martyn to do this tag. Like, he had mentioned it and then he didn't do it, and I was waiting and waiting for him to do it. And then when he finally did do it, I went to go find the book that I wanted and I couldn't find it. So it has taken me a long time to get to this point, but I'm here and I'm kind of glad that I waited because I have some maybe more thoughtful answers than I would have had if I'd sort of rushed in to this tag. So here it is, my Desert Island decks. And there's just 4 prompts for this one. Actually 3 prompts, excuse me, 3 prompts. You get 2 tarot decks, 1 oracle, and 1 book for your time on a desert island. Now, I'm assuming that I am like comfortable on a desert island with everything that I need. So I do not need to bring a survival guidebook or anything like that. I'm actually, maybe I've flown somewhere and I've decided to stay there for a year. And since this is right on the heels of my no-buy month and my attempt to kind of worm my way back down into the depths of myself, I'm really liking this idea of 2 decks, actually 3 decks and a book for a year. So these are my choices and the big whys. So first of all, the books. I went round and round, and at first I thought, of course, that I might do this book right here, which is my complete illustrated works of William Shakespeare. This book is lovely. It is just huge though. It's absolutely ginormous and kind of cumbersome. And I thought, you know, after, there comes a point where you don't want to read Shakespeare. I mean, I'm sure I would get so versed in the voice of it. But there just comes a point where you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. So that was a no. But this is a lovely copy and I got this a long time ago. Then I thought maybe I would bring my copy of Tennyson poems because I love Tennyson, but this is very old, as you can see. He's a bit forlorn and that gets old after a while. But then I finally settled on this book right here that I have had since I was a child. It was my mom's book. Might have even been her mother's book as well. And I thought about going for a fairy tales book. You know, you're there for a while, you want some really good stories and tales. Where's that illustration? Come on, come apart. But then I settled on this, which is Edith Hamilton's mythology book. And I love this book. I love the myths in it. I love Greek myths. And so I thought, I never get tired of them. There are, gosh, look, it has these great pantheons here, so you can like actually see everybody's tree of life there. 465 pages. I thought this would keep me going. I could really enjoy reading this, and I actually thought about breaking this out and rereading it in order to just be recaptivated, like I was talking about, re-enchanting my life. And I do love the Greek myths. This is a great version of it, and I could not find this because everything was in such disarray. So I had to redo my room here, and then I uncovered it. So it was, honestly, this was the impetus. This tag was the impetus for redoing my room, and that feels great. The idea of only having 2 tarot decks for a year, that sounds amazing to me. That sounds like falling back in love with the tarot, letting myself even burn out a little bit on it, getting good at using it in a way that's very meaningful instead of just sort of arbitrarily, because at this point I draw cards almost every day, this month anyway. And, you know, I can choose from 150 decks. So having just 2 decks makes me think that this time would make it so lovely to, again, reacquaint myself, but go super deep with some decks. And so I really wanted to keep that in mind. And because of that reason, I decided not to bring my favorite deck, because I thought, you know, I might burn out on the Super Lunaris. And although it's diverse and all of that, I thought, you know what? I want to do something different for my 1 year on the island. I don't want to do what I've always done. I also was thinking, what if I grew to hate my favorite deck? This is another reason why I majored in horticulture, and I decided not to become a landscape designer because I didn't want to ruin something. I didn't want to make my favorite thing to do something that I hated doing. I didn't want it to become something that I had to do. Okay, so for that reason, I decided to go with a deck that is brand new to me. This is a gift that was recently given to me. Oh, can't get this in there. And I thought I'm actually so in love with it. I also thought I needed something that would feel natural, that would give me a little bit of what I love, the kind of scenery that I enjoy. So I chose the Oak, Ash, and Thorn Tarot. And I thought, this, first of all, it's nature-based, and the illustrations are glorious. They're so beautiful. I'm not super acquainted with this deck, so it would be new to me. And I could really, really get to know it. It's also an animal deck, and I thought on a desert island, which was, it's going to be tropical, I would really miss these landscapes, and I would really miss these animals. These animals are really a part of my heart and soul, and I did not think that they would be on the island. And since animals are just so important to me, I thought this would be a great deck to have for a year. And to be able to feel like the fall energy, to see this, to see the fall colors, to see just the plants that I'm used to, so that I could have like some kind of connection in that way. And then I thought to myself, what will I do with myself for the rest of the time? And I thought this feels very light, and there's something familiar about it, and I wanted something unfamiliar. So this is a little bit of a cheat, you guys. I have to admit, this is a little bit of a cheat. I'm reaching over here, pulling out my Marielle 2nd edition. I have never studied this, and I've wanted to, so I'm thinking I'm going to get to take the box with me that has the book in it so that I can use the book, full color book, oh my gosh, and get to know this deck. And I chose this deck because I felt like it, first of all, the art style is amazing. It's Toth based. The illustration style is one that I really appreciate, but there's a dark edge to this. There's something a little bit foreboding. There's just like, you can feel your shadow kind of crawling out as you go through the cards. And to me, I thought, while I'm on this desert island, I want to really delve deep. I want to use this time of solitude in order to kind of come into myself in a new and fresh way. And this deck really seemed to make me feel that way. Again, it's got some controversial stuff going on in it. It's such an interesting, look at this Ace of Wands with just all of that energy right up there. Yeah, there's just something very powerful about this. Look at this Two of Wands. Like that, this is what this deck feels like to me. This card right here. This is what this deck feels like. It feels like heading into the dark wood not afraid, heading into the dark wood, maybe knowing that I'm going in, getting in, treading into someplace deep and unknown, but wanting to take on to that challenge, wanting to discover what's in there, knowing that the forest is ready to hold me. So yeah, like I said, the art style in this is just beautiful. This is such a gorgeous deck, and it's so incredibly powerful. So this was my second deck. And again, like I said, was just a little bit of a cheat because it also has gilding on it, you guys, which I love gilding. A little bit of a cheat just because it does have a book, but if it didn't have the book, I would still be happy to go with it. If Martyn's like, no, you can't do that. No way. And then for my Oracle deck. So for my Oracle deck, I went round and round about this and I thought, okay, I've got this, I've got this one deck that's got the sort of the style that I love and the animals. And then I've got this darker, deep deck that's going to take me into myself. What can this Oracle deck do? And, honestly, like, I don't feel like maybe these pair at all. So that was kind of interesting too. I thought, do I try to make them pair together? Do I go for something that's going to feel like it really wants to, is visually congruent? And I thought, you know what? Instead, what I'm going to do is really pick something that is going to help to guide me into my wild self. If you're going to be on a desert island and you're going to be by yourself, this is a chance to kind of uncork the bottle in some ways and allow yourself to get down into a little bit more of my primordial energy. And so I wanted something that really stirred me in a way and was very thought-provoking. And again, this is a little bit of a cheat because I'm assuming that I'm going to be able to take the book with me. The book on this was a major, major factor for why I chose this deck. So I'm assuming I get to take my little box set with me. I chose the Sacred Rebels Oracle by Alana Fairchild. You may not know this, but I did Alana's year-long course. And so I spent some time with her other decks, namely her crystal deck. And one thing that I know about every book that Alana does is that you'll have sort of the main aspects of the card, and then you have a healing process that goes with it. And so I thought this would really help me to move into myself. And of course, this is the Sacred Rebels one. So this is really about moving into that energy of self in a way, like this, free from judgment, free to love. There's because this is about rebellion, there's a sacred undertaking of abandonment that comes with this deck. And I have worked with this deck quite a bit. So I do know it, but not great. I mean, it's not like I used it every day forever, but I am really familiar with it and it is quite lovely. The illustrations on it are amazing. There's so much going on in each card. And so every journey starts with a single step. Seeing the true you. And I love that she's like sitting on a couch and then she's in the middle of this pond, this lily pond, gazing at herself. So I kind of felt like this was the perfect thing to do on a desert island for a year. I mean, look at this. Softly, softly, the tender touch. Just exploring these aspects of self in a way that really call you in. And I really enjoyed Alana's program. She has some amazing meditations that she does during that time. I learned so much about myself when I went through her soul mentorship and soul guidance program. I did get certified and it was a year-long program and it really changed me. It really was the springboard for making card divination my main form of divination. It really made me feel as though this was the place that I wanted to land. Deepening my own sense of self, having somewhat of the familiar, but diving into a brand new deck. And then having the Mary L, it felt like kind of the final piece was to bring mythology in, to let story be something. And myths expand and grow. Again, they take you into yourself. They take you into the hero's journey. They teach you about yourself. and they tend to be quite thought-provoking, at least for me. So it felt like this was like the right sort of soup, cosmic soup for my desert island trip. And it did make me think about, I have been curating my reads, but how could I go deeper within that in order to curate my reads during the month and maybe be adding other layers of divination and reading that elicit that? I have a tendency to use my reading as an escape, but how could I maybe use something and partner with my cards and the aspect of self that I want to explore in that month? I'm hoping that some of you will do this tag if you haven't already, and let me know what you think about my choices. Until we meet again, may you find yourself on a desert island by choice.